Mahadeo, journalist and community reporter, and I dedicate my time to searching for the stories that matter the most. Positive, uplifting, and inspiring stories that spotlight the challenges and obstacles we conquer to become the people who we are today. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of all the fairy tale lifestyles that people seem to be living on social media. Girl, you did not wake up like that. I'm interested in the genuine connections, the honest opinions, and the real uncut version of your true self. This show is about keeping it 100% real, deconstructing who we are and what we're all about. Join me as we sit down with individuals to discuss the personal struggles, the many challenges, and the moments that define us on this journey of self-discovery. Let's be real, life isn't fair and people make mistakes, but every opportunity is a learning experience. Let's discover the truth together right here on Real Talk. Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Real Talk. I'm your host, Alyssa Mahadeo. And guys, we are here every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. I know you guys missed me last week, but my girl Anisha, who's usually behind the cameras, was here on the show and she did a great job. So congratulations on your first show, Anisha. So she did a great job. I was watching the show and I was impressed. I was like, she probably watches my show. So guys, today we have another great conversation, and it's brought to you by a concerned citizen of Brampton. That's how we're going to stage today's show, because we're not going to stage it. This is the theme of today's show. We're concerned citizens of Brampton. So today we're actually going to be talking a little bit about the upcoming election, because it is important. We are living in Brampton. Our studio is in Brampton, so this is kind of why I think a lot of people think that we favor Brampton news, but it's just because we live in Brampton, so a lot of the things that happen in the city kind of affect us directly. But today on the show, we're going to be talking a little bit about the election, some of the candidates that are running in the upcoming election, some of the things that they've said that they're going to hope to change, as well as the most important, why you should go and vote. I think maybe like once every couple months we have a conversation about why we should go and vote. But again, voting is very important. I think a lot of people still take the privilege to vote for granted. And I mean, I understand why people don't vote, because I feel like a lot of people are feeling that they're not being heard. There's a lot of things where they're like, well, does my opinion really matter? I feel like at the end of the day, whoever wins is still going to win, and they're still not going to fix anything that I need to be fixed. But I know, like, as hard as it is sometimes to kind of get on board with this idea of going to vote and allowing your voice to be heard, it's still important that most importantly, that you're informed, so you kind of know what's going on, that you know who is running, because I think that's one of the other important things that why people don't vote is because they don't trust the candidates that are up for election and they're like, well, why would I go cast my ballot for a person who I don't even know? I think it's really important also today that I say that anything that I say on this show is not reflective of the station, of the newspaper, of any of the media organization that I work for. It's strictly me as a person, as a citizen of Brampton, voicing my opinions on how I feel things are kind of going in this upcoming municipal election. So for those of you who don't know, the election is on October 22nd. Based on the stats that I've seen, 76 people have registered to run for a position in Peel Region or for City Council. So that's just to give you kind of some stats on where people are kind of at. I feel like this is the year that I've seen a lot of people kind of out there voicing their opinions, looking for change. And I feel like everyone kind of has this idea where they're the one that's going to bring about change. And I'm really, really interested to see how they're going to do it. So today on the show, I actually have another Guelph Humber alumni, who's going to be on the show. Her name is Nikita Brown. She is the editor of an online blog now that's been established a little bit in the Brampton area, but I will let her introduce herself more further before we get into things. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back and be joined by Nikita. So we'll be right back.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back. You're watching Real Talk. I'm your host, Alyssa Mahadeo, and today on the show I have Nikita Brown. Nikita Brown is a fellow GH alumni. I know that that's actually one of the most things we're proud of. I think I'm most proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so happy to be here today. And excited to talk about Brampton with a fellow GH alumni.
Yeah. So Nikita, for the audience, just explain a little bit about who you are and where you come from.
Yeah, so I am the founder of Bramptonist, which is an online publication that covers news, culture, food in Brampton for the millennial audience. We started 3.5 years ago, and primarily because we really felt like young people were escaping to Toronto and they weren't spending time in Brampton. And that was because they probably just didn't know what was going on. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what was going on, for crying out loud, and I'm, a young person. So that was really why we launched the blog, was to give people a platform that would talk about the cool, interesting things and people coming out of Brampton so they could stay in the community and invest their time in the community, but also be proud to be from here, because Brampton's got there's a bit of hate on Brampton.
Yeah,
so,
it's true.
And it's a lot of the time from people that live here. So it's like, how do we foster a stronger sense of like pride in people so they're excited to be from here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I remember when I first saw the name. First of all, I thought the name Bramptonist was so cool. Because
Thank you.
I was like, oh, she's like a scientist of Brampton. But also, I like this whole idea of you working to make Brampton cooler. Because again, it is true. A lot of the other cities kind of hate on Brampton when they hear you're from Brampton. They're just like, oh, Brampton, kind of thing. And I mean, even like when you grow up here, you kind of feel the reputation that Brampton has.
Yeah, we definitely get an inferiority complex living here, and I don't know where that comes from. I really don't know what started the Brampton hate. I would love to do like a study on how that happened. But really, like, there are some amazing people that come out of here, and we're slowly starting to hear about those people. And I think finally people are like, okay, Brampton's not that bad, but we still have a ways to go, I feel like, and it has to start from within, because a lot of people from here hate on here, right?
Yeah.
So how do we change that conversation? Like, for us, we don't cover crime and that kind of thing, and not because it's like we want to ignore the fact that it happens. That's just not our focus. We feel like people focus a lot on the negative, so we really try to take it upon ourselves to cover the interesting, cool stories in the community so people hear those.
Yeah, and we do the same thing at the Toronto Caribbean newspaper. It's a lot of the same thing. Again, the Caribbean community specifically has a little bit of a stigma when it comes to a lot of things, when it comes to running businesses, when it comes to doing business with community, small business organizations, things like that. So there's a lot of bias a little bit in the community where we're trying to kind of get away from that. We're trying to show people, okay, no, this is the kind of people that are in the community. This is what we're doing. This is how we're trying to further ourselves. The nonprofit organizations, the community get-togethers and organizations that they're doing things to help the younger generation as well, right?
Definitely, and I think that that's kind of a big thing too. Like, how do we make sure the younger generation doesn't continue to hate on Brampton? That it needs to stop somewhere. So it's amazing when you hear about like Alessia Carr and so many other talented people coming out of Brampton. It hopefully will contribute to fostering that sense of pride and changing the conversation a little bit about Brampton.
So I've lived in Brampton since I was like 7. I moved from Scarborough and I moved to Brampton. So I've grown up in Brampton. Gone to like every school I feel like in Brampton. But I also feel like, again, it's the same thing. Like, I don't feel like I know everything there is to know about Brampton. I don't know a lot of, like, it's only now because I've been in the media that I've seen a lot of the things that Brampton is kind of dealing with surrounding issues, with surrounding, like, community places, recreational things for us to do. And I mean, it's great to see in the last couple years, like, the way that Garden Square has been built up, the, like, you know, renovations that have been happening for the hospitals. And I know that there's a lot of issues that are going to be addressed in the upcoming election. I don't want to get too much into the election just yet, but I do want to hear from you as someone who is in the media. How do you find a balance between your own opinion and also being a citizen of Brampton? So, like, how do you kind of find a balance for yourself?
It's a tricky one because we're so, like, everybody on my team is from Brampton. We live, eat, sleep, and breathe Brampton. So it's hard to not get passionate about some things. We obviously see a lot of different perspectives because we interact with people online that, you know, have varying opinions on things. So it's really hard sometimes to not get passionate and not insert our opinion in things because we're like, oh, we just want Brampton to be better. We just want, like, this thing to happen. You know, like, our audience is younger, so they tend to be a little bit more progressive. They have urban views. They want Brampton to have better transit and, you know, more entertainment, more spaces like Garden Square. They want it to be more walkable, more pedestrian friendly and stuff like that. And so we kind of try to represent our audience in that way. So we tend to write from a more liberal perspective, I guess you could say, but we really do try to balance it. It is really hard though, because like I said, we're just like, oh my gosh, Brampton, we just want you to be better. So it's so hard to just like reel that back a little bit sometimes and just kind of let things be, just speak to the facts.
Yeah. I also find that when something is specifically happening in Brampton, people tend to go specifically, I won't mention the name of the organization or the company, but they specifically go to one person for, like, one outlet for their news. And I'm like, that's cool, but there's also other organizations out here that are doing similar coverage, if not better. You know what I mean? So we're not saying, again, that we're doing the best coverage there is to be done on an event or on a specific issue that's happening, but I find that people too often get comfortable going to one place for news and they feel like, okay, this is the only place that I'm going to get the correct news about a certain thing that's happening.
Absolutely, but I think that what's been really encouraging for me to see over the last 2 to 3 years is that there are other media outlets like emerging, and it's nice because you do need multiple perspectives. You can't rely on one source. That's just like terrible for democracy and terrible for anything, right? We need to have more perspectives, and it's been nice to see other media outlets, big and small, kind of pop up in the city and offer, you know, alternate opinions.
So I know that you spent, we were kind of discussing a little bit, we haven't spent a lot of time covering said election. Only because of the whole bias surrounding a lot of things, that you can't take one side or the other. You kind of have to be level on the whole playing field. You can't just be like, I'm going to give this person more coverage to this person, because then it looks bad on the organization. It looks bad on you as a person, because you're not giving everyone the benefit of the doubt here. And I think our job as media personalities, as people who are writing for media and covering important events like this, that we don't tell people you should do this. We should allow people to make their own informed decisions.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, for us at Bramptonist, we really wanted to take a really sort of measured approach to everything. So we gave all the candidates surveys, and it was standard questions. So whether they answered the questions or not is, like, you know, was not our thing, but like some of them submitted them, some of them didn't. But we really wanted to give everybody an even playing field. And really the rest of our focus has been covering anything newsworthy that's come up. Some candidates, there are questions around some candidates, and our readers have expressed those concerns, so we've gone and sort of written stories around some of those things, but we really just want it to be even, because we know that like there's incumbents, there are people that run that don't have a lot of money and don't have a big platform,
of course,
so we really just wanted to even out the playing field. So everybody got a standard survey and they answered the questions.
Yeah, I like that. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to discuss a little bit more in depth about some of the election and some of we're not going to talk specifically about candidates, but we're kind of going to talk about some of the issues that we've heard that are going to be addressed in the upcoming election. So you're watching Real Talk. We'll be right back.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back. You're watching Real Talk. I'm your host, Alyssa Mahadeo, and today we have the lovely Nikita Brown. She is out here. She's representing Brampton today, I think. What we're going to say, we're the concerned citizens of Brampton today.
Absolutely.
On the show. And again, we're talking about a very important issue surrounding the upcoming election on October 22nd. Mainly the decision to go and vote. I think a lot of people are kind of falling by the wayside when it comes to going out and coming out to vote. And it's just because people don't know what to do. I feel like a lot of people are just kind of floundering in the water.
For sure. It's really confusing. Like at the municipal level, you're voting for 4 people on a ballot. Like that is crazy. Mm-hmm. So it's like so much research that goes into knowing who to vote for, what position they're even running for. Because Brampton has a regional councilor and a city councilor, which is super confusing. Mm-hmm. But just like doing the research is crazy enough for people. And I think that, traditionally people do vote federally and provincially. Those things are kind of in your face, but they forget about the municipal level politics, which is just so important because those are the people that affect your daily life. They decide when your garbage gets picked up. They decide whether a housing development's going to get built near your house, like so many things that affect you every day, but like still people forget to vote.
People forget to vote. And I think, again, I find people don't feel connected enough to their candidates to want to go out and vote. I think that's a big thing for a lot of citizens, and this is just based on what I've heard from, like, the opinions of other people. I'm like, oh, do you go and vote? Like, I just asked you, even, like, what are some of the things that you considered when you're going to the ballot?
For sure. I think, for me, keeping with my wanting Brampton to be a better place, I look for people who are making decisions that are smart for Brampton. I think historically, like you said, that people don't really feel connected to their candidates, and I think that that's because historically we haven't really had people that have been reflective of our actual community, right? Mm-hmm. We have a really young, diverse population in Brampton, and I just feel like, that wasn't representative on council for a really long time. So I think that we have a really, really good crop of candidates that are really diverse. Women, men from different ethnicities and different religions this time around. So I really hope people take the time to get to know them because it's so important to like pick these people. They're going to be deciding some really important things and they're handling like hundreds of millions of dollars worth of a budget like that you're paying out of your tax dollars. So it's so important to pick the right person that's qualified. Mm-hmm. But I think transit is a big one for me. Community safety has been a really big thing in the community as of late, especially with some of the crimes that have been happening. Mm-hmm. Picking somebody who's going to look to the future. Like we're continuing to grow as a city. 12,000 new people move into here every day, or Sorry, not every day. That's a lie. That is not true. Every year. And Brampton continues to grow. So who's going to make the best decisions to make sure Brampton becomes a city that's sustainable? That's like, we can't keep putting more cars on the road. That's crazy. We need better transit and other things.
We can barely even like drive on the road. I feel like
the 410's a disaster.
It's a disaster.
So
rush hour is a disaster. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's because for so long we've just built houses. People have to leave the community to work, and that means spending time on the 410. But we just really haven't focused a lot on transit and building different modes of transit, but like just we keep building out instead of going up a little bit, and that just means that like there's more sprawl in Brampton. Now everybody needs a car, and I don't know about you, but sometimes it's not the best, it's hard to afford a car.
I've never thought of Brampton as being kind of like Toronto, but more and more these days I feel like when I'm driving in Brampton, it's like I'm downtown Toronto because everything is so close together, but then there's like no space on the road to drive anywhere.
For sure. And it's just, I think that like if we look back historically, we've had leadership that just hasn't made some of the best decisions. Like, we just can't keep building houses. We need other options, for one thing. But two, like, that just puts more people on the road.
Yeah. Well, another thing, too, even just building houses, is the housing in Brampton is no longer affordable to people.
Not at all. And it's crazy that, millennials is really frustrating for us because it's single-family dwellings. It's not condos. We don't have very many condo developments. But it's crazy that Brampton is probably one of the most affordable cities in the GTA, and it's still not affordable.
No,
that's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, no. When you hear how some of the prices of some of the houses that are on the market, you're like, that's how much a house is going for in Brampton. Like, those are the prices that you hear normally, like downtown Toronto. So, so what are some of the issues that you've kind of heard hearsay, we'll say, in and around in the community, what they've been talking about?
Yeah, so like I said, community safety is a big one. I know that there's been a recent increase in crime. I don't know what the actual percentage is. I know that obviously media coverage plays a role in how people perceive crime in Brampton, and we're a city that's growing. More people move in. That means that there is a greater capacity for crime, but I don't think we've also done a very good job of activating our youth in the community, creating programs for them. There's poverty that's, persisting, lack of housing, and all those things I think are contributing to the rise in crime. And that's been a big topic of conversation. I think like every candidate has it in their platform because they know that the community is like well aware of that.
Yeah.
And really wants to know what people are planning to do for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, even in the last year, just a lot of the things that have happened have felt so close to home for a lot of people. And we're like, we thought Brampton was safe.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? People are like locking their doors, like double locking, setting alarms. And I'm sure, like, yes, people do that. People do that as a safety precaution, like, initially. But now it's kind of a fear that's been instilled in people.
Yeah, I think that that's part of it too, like the perception of, danger. But we're a city of 600,000 people. So if you look at it, like, our crime rates are not crazy for the amount of people we have in the city. But I definitely think that, like, it's playing in people's minds now that it's happening more often. We're all freaking out a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a big topic of conversation this election.
I've had a couple of people kind of come in on the show, on past shows, and we've discussed different things in and around Brampton. Again, more concerned citizens of Brampton, just kind of wanting to know what's going to go on with certain things. I know a big thing that we've been trying to work on is this university.
Yes.
This university that we're trying to put into Brampton. So a lot of people, again, there's pros and cons.
I love this topic.
I know, there's a lot of like
I have
negative.
lots of opinions about this topic.
Lots of negative. There's like a negative, there's positive, there's so many things, but what are your views kind of on this?
Okay, let me spill all the tea about this university. So Ryerson University, they're building a campus downtown. It's going to be 2,000 students to start off with, and then they plan to grow. What I've heard is that they plan to focus on cybersecurity. I hear concerns from people who, and I think they're unfounded. Frankly, I'm going to be really honest about that. Like, I'm super excited about this university. Ryerson is amazing. They know how to do urban campuses. Like, take a look and do some research about what they were in the 1990s to what they are now in Toronto. Like, they know how to do it. Mm-hmm. Their DMZ is proof that they can work with the private sector really, really well. They know how to create jobs. They know how to do the tech industry. And right now, Brampton sits in the middle of Toronto and Waterloo, which is two major tech hubs. We're connected to those two regions by the GO train, mm-hmm. The GO train line, and we aren't really doing very much to to activate that and to be a part of that. So like, what is better than a cybersecurity university being built right on the go line?
Yeah.
I've been hearing people call it a parking lot university and all this other stuff, and that just blows my mind. Like, really, folks? Like, everything's a parking lot until it's a building.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an epic building. Like, frankly, like, I'm going to leave this in Ryerson's capable hands. They know what they're doing. They know how to build campuses. And they know how to activate the community in and around the campuses that they build. Like, they're fantastic at doing that. Like, look at what they did in Yonge and Dundas Square.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about it at all. I know some people were like, well, it should have gone here. It should have gone in the middle of a field, and it should have been 10,000 students. But, like, straight up, like, that's not what Ryerson does. And nobody should be surprised that they're building a 2,000-person university in Brampton's downtown, because that's what they do. And we knew from the get-go they were the only applicant. So that's what we're getting, and I'm frankly super excited.
I was really excited about it too when I heard that they were doing that, and the fact that they were putting it in downtown. I mean, you can't build a university out in some field because no one's gonna go to that university.
Totally,
like, that's really important.
For sure, people keep saying, well, like, UTM is a real university, and Brampton's just getting a satellite campus. Well, UTM's a satellite campus, and they had challenges with building so far out from the community and having to build infrastructure there for students on campus that they couldn't access outside, like, while they were, connected to the community. So I think it's a really, really smart idea. I think our downtown needs more pizzazz, and I think this is what's going to do it. I hear that it's about a $300 million investment with the Innovation Center that they're going to build in the Central Library, and, like, I'm excited. I don't know why people are complaining about it. Really, like, it's, at the end of the day, like, I think Brampton could be its own worst enemy sometimes. Like, this is an amazing opportunity for the city.
Yeah, of course.
And I would hate it if, like, one party walked away from the table, because our community has been so negative about it in some ways. Like, it's frustrating to see, because I'm like, this is amazing. We should just all be excited. Let's be excited. Let's just all be happy about this.
Yeah, no, I feel the exact same way. I mean, like, just think about, when I'm out in communities now, there's so many, like, elementary schools. There's so many high schools now that have been, like, the schools are going up, like, around the blocks. Like, you're seeing all the schools, and I'm like, all of these kids are going to have to go to university and college at some point. Wouldn't it be great if they could go right here in the city?
For sure, which was not an option for us.
No, we had to
commute.
Out,
we had to take, like, the 11 bus on Steeles to Guelph Humber. There wasn't even a Zoom bus at the time on that route.
No, there was no Zoom bus, and it was, like, cold and, just the transportation. But again, also since the time when, like, I used to take the bus all the time, like, the transportation system has changed a lot.
It has definitely gotten better. I think Brampton Transit is the fastest growing transit system in Canada. Ridership is just up because we have a lot of students in the city that need to get around, and having a car is just not economically friendly these days.
Can't do it.
Let's be honest. We millennials have lots of struggles.
So we're gonna take another quick break. When we come back, we'll probably talk a little bit more on the issue of transportation in the city, because again, it is something I do want to address. I do want to talk about, because I find, again, there's so many things that happen in Brampton that I wonder why we have problems about them. So
Definitely.
We are going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Real Talk. I'm your host, Alyssa Mahadeo, and today on the show we have Nikita Brown. Nikita Brown is here, and we are talking everything Brampton today. We're talking about all of the things that is going to be addressed in the upcoming election. There's a lot of issues, and a lot of citizens aren't really kind of sure where to go, what to do, what to turn to. Like, should I go? Should I vote? I don't want to vote. I don't feel like these candidates are listening to me.
Should vote. Should definitely vote.
Right, and you should always vote. I always say this. I mean, even if you're not even sure who to vote for. Do some research even the night before and still try to find something that resonates with you to go and cast your ballot. I've done it, like, since when I've been able to vote in Brampton. I'm like, make sure, go and vote. And I just do it even, like, there's a lot of times where I don't even know some of the candidates that I'm voting for, which is really bad. But that was before I even knew to do the type of research, or even to read up on what's going on or what kind of issues they're looking to tackle. And I mean, I think this year I've been the most involved in, like, most proactive in looking at the different things that we're trying to address. We were talking about transportation before the break. I've taken the bus in Brampton. I find it very convenient to take the bus in Brampton. I find it's not a hassle, which a lot of people still say it is.
Yeah, I think that for the central area, like if you're taking a Zoom bus, it's amazing. They've done an amazing job in building up that system. If you're living out way in the middle of nowhere, which, you know, a lot of people are, because we're still building lots of houses on like Chinguacousy Road and even farther than that, it's a little bit harder, you know, to connect. I definitely think that the transit system has improved significantly over the last few years. Mm-hmm. I mean, based on when, like, I went to high school and from now, it's a really, really big improvement. I definitely think that, like, there is a ways to go and it's not over because 12,000 people are moving here every year. That's a crazy number of people.
Yeah.
We can't put them all on the road. We need to give them other options. Yeah. And the only option is to create better transit so they actually want to take it and it's not like a dreadful thing, you know? Yeah. Let's make it easy for people to say, like, okay, I can leave my car at home today.
Yeah, I mean, more and more people are taking even, like, the Go Bus into Toronto. They're not even driving, like, because people don't, when you think about driving on the Gardiner and all of that traffic, like, you get anxiety. So you're just like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to take the bus and I'm just going to walk everywhere. Even taking Uber in the city has become a whole thing.
For sure.
So people don't want to do things like that. They want an option that is affordable and also is easy to navigate. So
definitely. And speaking of Toronto, like, we don't have two-way all-day GO service yet. So the train service is like in the morning and then midday they have a couple trains and in the evening. So we don't have service all day. We don't have service on weekends. Weekends, super convenient for young people who want to go to Toronto on the weekends. Yeah. So that's definitely a big thing. There's some hurdles that the province and the city need to work on to make that happen. Technical stuff. You can look it up. It's called the freight bypass if anybody actually wants to research it. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of things that are kind of in the way that hopefully will be solved soon. But that's a big thing. And I'm looking to see if candidates are talking about that because that definitely needs to be solved at some point.
Mm-hmm. So how well do you feel you know the candidates that are in the upcoming election, like the ones that you might potentially vote for?
I have done, like, I've read their platforms. So the people in my ward, anyway, I can't say I've read everybody's platform. That would be crazy.
But there's 72 candidates, like, people running in the city.
That's a lot of folks. Yeah. But I definitely think that I would say across the board, I've met, I think, almost all of the candidates. And there are some really, really good people running. So I don't think in any ward you're going to find, like, oh my gosh, I don't know who to vote for because all these people are awful. Like, I think every ward has at least one good candidate. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just a matter of, like, quickly, I know, like, obviously people are pressed for time these days, to just go through and see, like, even if you can go on their social media, like, that's an easy way to kind of see a summary of what they've been talking about. Go on their social media, go on their Twitter or their Facebook and just scroll through and see what topics they're talking about, what community events they're going to. That might be a decent way to kind of find out about them.
Yeah, I mean, we've been scrolling through Twitters, we've been doing Facebook searches, tons of Instagrams, but, like, these candidates are online, they're on social media, so they're proactively in the community, they're talking to people. Sometimes I feel that they're not always talking to the right people, but that's just my opinion personally. And I find also that a lot of people are even going to these. They're holding a lot of, like, council, like, not council meetings, but community meetings.
Yeah, like town halls and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that that's a good way for candidates to get to know the community and to make themselves available. It's interesting because a lot of them, obviously they run their campaign based off what they want to do for the community, but they also kind of know, like, where their voter base is too. So strategically they'll reach out to those people. And sometimes that does leave parts of the community feeling like, well, like, what about us? Like, are we just chopped liver? Like, what's going on? Yeah. So it's been really interesting. But I think that we have to take a proactive approach regardless of what they're doing and just, like, at least look for our own information a little bit because it's so hard to say, but I think, like, we can't just go off of what they say they're gonna do. We have to at least just,
you kind of have to like look into them and be like, oh, okay, so this is the kind of person that you say that you want to be, but then is this the kind of person that you actually are?
For sure. And I think at least for the mayoral race, you have to do that, right? Because that person's leading our city and they have the most responsibility. They are the ones that are, looking to bring in investments to our city, and they're the face of our city too. So I feel like at the very least, they deserve a thorough look through to see what their policies are, see what their plans are, especially because I hear from young people like, I want this in Brampton. I want better transit. I want more condos. And those are all part of like an urban agenda. We want the city to be more urban, but historically that has just not been our city council hasn't made decisions to make Brampton that way. So I think like if that's what you want, you need to look for the candidates who are representative.
And you need to tell them. That's a really big thing. Like you have to be vocal when it comes to things like that. Like you were saying, I went to a couple of town hall meetings last year. And they were really interesting to be a part of, only because like they specifically like picked one topic that they were going to address and then let everyone voice their opinion on that one topic. Yeah. Instead of it being like a list of 8 things and we're all going to talk, like, because that's going to take like 2 days to go through.
You'll be there for eternity.
Yeah. And I mean, even the one conversation that you have for a town hall, like a town hall, sometimes it goes like 2 hours, 4 hours, depending on how long it's going to be and how many people come out. But it's a really good way to be face to face with that candidate, to hear about what they're talking about, for you to voice your opinion, your concerns, and also like it's a very like judgment free place. Like people aren't like, no, that's not the way you should think. People are like, no, we want to hear what is that you want from us, because we can't do things. We can't just guess.
For sure. And I think even it's so important outside of the election too to engage with your candidate. Like make sure they know that you're watching them. Like let's be honest.
Yeah.
Politicians aren't always honest and they don't always make decisions. Like if you look at the track record of some of the votes and things that have gone on over the last few years, or even like past that, we know that like in the last council there was a lot of controversy around the former mayor, and that's why people voted, because they wanted transparency. So it's really important to like at least look and see what the major votes are and how people voted, because then that gives you a good indicator of like where your candidate is, stands on some issues. But when they become your actual city councilor or regional councilor, like watch them like a hawk. Make sure they know, because at the end of the day, they have to be accountable, and they're not going to be accountable if they feel like they can get away with stuff. Like that's just how it is,
well,
right?
Even some of these guys who are running for re-election, like you're not going to be reelected if I've been watching you all year. You're not doing all the things that you said you were going to do.
Or you're like, I believe in transparency, but you make a vote that's like completely against that, because there were a lot of votes last time around that raised eyebrows about giving public funds to certain organizations and stuff like that. And the majority of Brampton's living their life, so they might not even know that happened, but it's so important to like factor that in when you're actually voting.
Well, I mean, I even find I did a little bit of research on even who people voted for in the provincial election, things like that, to see how that might reflect in my area, in Brampton specifically too. I'm like, okay, so how did people vote provincially?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like wondering, I'm wondering if it would reflect now in the municipal election.
For sure, because we had like 3 NDP provincial candidates who won, and they're progressive and they want Brampton to be more urban and all these things. So it's like, is that how Brampton is reflected? And then of course we had 2 that were conservative. So I don't know. That's a really good question, and I don't know how it's gonna play out.
I don't know how. I know that the theme of this year has been specifically for Brampton, and I think for the majority of the province, it's been change. Everyone is advocating for change, and I see it. I'm like here for it, but I'm just like, what are we trying to change, and are we going to change it, or are we going to continually do all the things that we keep doing?
For sure, I think Brampton definitely needs, or I would say 4 years ago, needed a huge change. And we did see a huge change. Half of our city council was basically slashed to, completely new people. We have a new mayor. And I would say, like, having observed City Hall over the last, like a crazy person over the last 4 years, I really think that I'm hearing better conversations. So conversations that make me happy, that we're talking about like how to create more jobs in Brampton. We have an economic master plan for the first time ever in the city's history, which is crazy to me. Like, how did we not have a plan like that before?
Yeah.
We, for the first time, have an arts and culture master plan, which is huge is creating the arts community or nurturing the arts community here in Brampton, which can be a huge economic driver. But I mean, I want more fun things in Brampton, so I'm happy about it.
Because we're not always trying to leave Brampton to go out and do fun things.
Totally.
Sometimes you're like,
I'd
rather stay locally.
Totally. It's a trek to go to Toronto, and so much planning to figure out how to get home and when. So it's nice to have stuff in the community, but I've seen like a really good revival of the Rose Theater, and they've changed some of the programming there to reflect a more young and youthful audience. So I'm seeing a lot of things I'm really happy about. I talk to a lot of city staff, and I feel like the morale there is really good too. I'm hearing conversations, and I feel like people are holding themselves to a higher standard. So I feel like change is already happening in Brampton. Like, we're getting a university, and that was something the past council was not successful in making happen. So I think the change is happening. I think it's coming, and I think it's going to happen because we're getting at least four new candidates on council, because three people retired, one person's running for mayor. So we're getting at least four completely new faces we have never seen before in city council. Like, that's enough to change the balance of anything. So I think at the end of the day, we're going to see change and more of it. I think it's good. I think the university and some other key things have been really indicative of the fact that Brampton finally is like, oh, we're not like a suburban city anymore. 600,000 people is kind of like a big deal. So I think that we will definitely see change in Brampton, whether we like it or not. It's going to happen.
So we're going to take one more quick break, and when we come back, I think we're going to talk maybe a little bit about some of the meaningful discussions that you could even talk to your candidates, your local candidates, about if you do come face-to-face with them before the 22nd. So we're going to take one last break, and we'll be right back.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back. You're watching Real Talk. I'm your host, Alyssa Mahadeo, and today we are talking about everything Brampton, guys. We're out here and we're just trying to kind of look into Brampton and see some of the things that are happening with the upcoming election, some of the issues that are going to be addressed, things that are going to be put on the table, and ultimately who to vote for, because like we were talking about, Brampton has seen change. It requires a lot more change to get to the point where we're going to be like, yo, proud to be coming out of Brampton kind of thing. Because I think that's a big thing. I remember when I was in high school, a lot of people would say after graduation, like, I can't wait to get out of Brampton.
Totally.
And I was like, now I'm out here working in Brampton.
I know. And I'm like, thank goodness I don't have to commute to Toronto, because that sucks.
Yeah. I was always so worried coming out of even university that I was going to have to go and commute every day to Toronto for a job in the media, and I was so like sad about that, because I was like, I don't like commuting to Toronto. I hate Toronto so much.
It's a really big impact on your work-life balance to have to get on a train every day. I see my friends do it, so
yeah, I mean, I have lots of friends that still have to go out to Toronto, and by the time they get back, I had someone ask me yesterday what time I get back into the city, and I'm like, I'm in the city. It just takes me a while to get through the
Still
city.
here, live here,
yeah,
and work here.
Yeah,
I think it's a novelty to really, like, because a lot of people don't do that, but I think it impacts so much in our lives. Like, I think that's why sometimes people struggle to connect with Brampton, because either they get on the 410 every morning, they drive their car to and from work, they get home, they eat dinner, they go to bed, and they do the same thing, or they get on the train every day and it's back and forth, and there's not really like time to explore or learn about the community, because you're tired at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, and that's really important. Even like I know that you guys cover a lot of things that are cool that are happening in Brampton, that are like brand new additions to Brampton that people probably didn't know about. Like, I know you guys did this article about the skating rink, the new outdoor, and I didn't even know that this was happening.
For sure. I think that there's still, we try our best, but it's so hard because people are like, what, there's a farmer's market? Like, yeah, there's been one for like years.
Yeah.
But still, a lot of people just don't know. And I think like it's not like Toronto where there's that level of discovery. Like you're just sauntering down the street and you're like, oh, great, cool, a new restaurant. It's just, we're all in our cars. We drive from point A to point B. So it's really hard to like explore and like discover the city.
People spend more time commuting in Brampton than they do exploring Brampton.
Literally. Even to get to the grocery store, I'm like, ugh, I have to get in the car. Like nothing is walkable
That
here.
was me yesterday, actually. I had to do the same thing. I had an appointment, and then I went home, and then I had to go to the grocery store, and I was like, oh, why didn't I do this before I got home?
Totally.
Right?
And it's just not like Toronto where like you'd walk to the grocery store and you discover like 50 things on the way. It's so hard to help people know about what's going on in the community. So I think that that's a disconnect that hopefully like we can help fix, but I think everybody has to do their part to kind of figure out how to fix that problem. I still don't know the solution.
No, I mean, another thing I was even mentioning while we were on break was marketing in Brampton. I find that actually a couple shows like a couple back, Simone had a show where she had someone who does the marketing and like campaigning for the city of Aurelia, which was really cool because we got to hear from an aspect of how they try to market the city to make that city cool. And I was like, huh, who does that in Brampton? Right? So I was thinking about that, and I was like, if you market something in a way that makes it attractive and appealing to people, which what marketing is, more people are more obligated to like look into it, to like kind of go online, to do some research, to be like, oh, is this what's happening in Brampton? Is this how cool Brampton is now?
Yeah, I think last year the city hired a tourism manager or director for the first, well, actually not the first time, probably not the first time, but they have a new tourism director that's heading up that strategy. And I think like I'm really excited to see what comes out of that office. I think they're still in the planning stage, but I think that will be their primary responsibility, is making Brampton look cool and hip. And we worked on a project with them. We did a bunch of food tours for some ethnic restaurants in Brampton, and it was an amazing experience. We were just like, because we realized there's such like Brampton has one of the best ethnic food scenes in the GTA. But again, like you get in your car, you drive, and you don't discover like those little hidden places that are in random plazas.
And that are really great. They have really, really, really great food.
Totally. So I think uncovering some of those little gems will be needs to be the city's priority, and just marketing it to people outside of Brampton, because obviously the perception needs to change. It's just a matter of like making it happen, I think.
I find that even too, like now what I do is like I go on Instagram and I find like I follow people who are either in Brampton who are kind of doing those things, so it's like Brampton foodie, or like people who are going around and like doing like Brampton like arts and culture or Brampton tourism.
Yeah.
Like things like that, because those are the people who are out there discovering Brampton when you can't.
For sure. And at least like they can give you a Coles Notes version. Like we can give you a Coles Notes version. Yeah. These are the cool things. Don't bother like having to sift through Yelp. We'll just tell you the top 5 restaurants to go to this weekend or whatever. So that's helpful for people, definitely.
Yeah.
And we do hear from the restaurants like, oh, people come in, they say that they saw us on your Instagram or your wherever. So I think like at least we're helping. We're trying to really help the small businesses to get more traffic.
I mean, I'm really excited about the resurfacing project that they have that's going to be going down in Brampton, because I'm like, again, I was telling you, like, I drive through downtown Brampton sometimes, and I'm like, first of all, it's a little bit of a hassle. Second of all, I'm like, just don't drive through downtown Brampton. Just walk through downtown Brampton.
Yeah.
It's like you want to get out of your car, walk that like 2 blocks, and then get back in your car.
Literally.
But I'm really excited to see what they do with really refacing a lot of the businesses, because a lot of like you want if the front of a building looks really cool, obviously you're gonna go in.
Totally. I think that it will be really interesting to see how it all comes together. I'm excited personally. I think it coincides really well with the university. Young people are gonna want a hip, cool, fun
people
place
are gonna
to hang
be in
out.
all those stores. Like I just think about all of the business that those businesses are going to get now because of the consumers that are
young people
like
to spend their money on things.
When you're on break in university, you're looking for something to do that's local, that's in the area, that you can kill like 2 hours doing.
Exactly, in between classes or whatever it is. So yeah, I'm really excited about that project. I know it's like a ways away, but I also know that there's a couple condo developments that are going downtown as well in the area. So that will really just add to like more of the character and just encourage more walkability, I think, in that area. So people will like at least park their car, get out, walk for a little bit or whatever.
I think another thing too, I mean, maybe this is even something you guys can do, but updating the city of Brampton, their calendar. I find that I mean, their calendar is great to tell you, like, basically what's happening,
For
but
sure.
it doesn't sell you on the idea of going to these events.
And it's usually not like stuff that young people want to do, like bars and restaurants and that kind of stuff. It's usually like more nothing wrong with family stuff, not at all.
Yeah.
But it's usually more of the family focused stuff and
Yeah.
like the entrepreneurial stuff and the library stuff. But the entertainment aspect is missing from it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the entertainment aspect really, and even like things to do, like even like date night events, like things like that, because I know there are a lot of like couples that live in Brampton, new couples
For sure.
who who haven't even started their families yet, but they're still looking for things to do.
Definitely.
And again, even the ones that do have kids, they don't want to leave, they don't want to go too far. Just like cute things that you can do within the city that aren't too far to drive out to, which would be like 100% great. And again, make it look nice. That's all you really
definitely
have to do.
for that's one of our priorities too, because we were like, okay, clearly people don't know what's going on, so we do a lot of lists as well, like best date night ideas, creative date night ideas if you don't want to just go to the movies, that kind of stuff, because really at the end of the day we're like, okay, we just need to tell people. They just don't know.
They just don't know. And I mean, and I saw this last weekend. I was at the Rose for the Cardinal Official concert.
Yes.
And I was surprised to see how little a bit of an audience he had. And I'm like, this is Cardinal
It was
Official.
super fun.
It was so fun.
Super fun. But I think, not enough people knew about it.
Not enough people knew about it, because that place should have been full, I think.
I agree.
Especially for how many people are in Brampton. Because I was like, this is a fun event. Like, this is Cardinal. He's going in. Like,
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I think everybody left with a smile on their face
Yeah.
and had such a good time.
yeah, that's the thing. So I'm like, and Alex Vlies was there. So he was the opener. He performed and stuff like that. But again, these are things that the young people don't know about and they're not looking for, or it's not being marketed specifically to them. Again, you go on social media, go on Instagram. Like, I think the city of Brampton can totally, like, this is just me saying things, but I think the city of Brampton can really work on, refacing their website and updating that, making their Instagram a lot cooler, making their Facebook, any social platforms that, the young people are on, so that you
Definitely.
can tell them, okay, this is what's happening, this is what's going on in your city. Go out to it, come out, support, things like that. That'll get you more involved. It'll allow that interaction with everyone.
Absolutely. I think that there's a ways to go for Brampton, but I think that we're finally starting to have conversations like about the fact that there are we have one of the youngest populations in all of Canada, and we aren't, as a city, I feel they're reflective enough of that yet. So hopefully we can get our act together a little bit.
I know our young people are doing the most when it comes to if you go to in the schools. I've heard that there are different like councils who are like they're getting together, like their student councils are also working to create like clubs and things like that, where they're also able to get into the community to voice their opinions. So like these are what the high school students think or want,
Right.
stuff like that. So I thought that was really good as well.
That is fantastic. And I think, like we mentioned way before, it's so important to have youth programming in Brampton. So youth have creative, interesting, and constructive things to do with their time, right? So they don't get into crime. So I think we definitely need to work on that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was at the United Achievers scholarship recognition ceremony, and all of these kids were getting scholarships to go to university, to go to college. And when I was listening to their ambitions and the things they want to do, and I'm like, these kids need to go to school in Brampton so that they can now find jobs in Brampton.
Definitely.
Because you
Stay
know
here.
what that'll do to our economy. Like, it'll be amazing. We're going to have some really, really great things going on in the future.
Definitely. And I think that's why I'm like super excited about the university, because we need to retain young people somehow. We lose a lot of talented, young, interesting, cool people to Toronto. It just keeps happening. And
Brampton can be cool too, guys.
yes, we just need help. We just need help. We just need the young people to stay.
Yeah.
But we have to give them a good reason to, right?
Of course.
So it's a work in progress.
So, guys, Nikita, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having this conversation. Guys, make sure that you guys go out, do some research, vote. The election is on October. It's Monday, October 22nd. So go out.
Advanced polls are open as well. So I
Polls
think
are,
there's
yeah,
a few
early
dates.
polls are open. So, like, I mean, you have bare time to go and vote. So do it. If you're concerned, if you want change in Brampton, you're looking to advocate for things like that, like reach out to your councilors, reach out to your mayoral candidates, find out what's going on and how can you have your voice matter. Right. So that's been another edition of Real Talk, guys. Thank you again for joining us, and I will see you again next week.